We don't show prep. So, so he had no idea.
I just barely make it in.
I'm sure you can tell, but we don't show.
I mean, let's put the cards down on the table here.
Miami Hurricanes, yeah. You know the name already. It's Mercy. Ha ha. It's a 6-Ring Kane show. Can't forget the name though. Got Jazz, Blue, Vision, DJ break the game code. Ain't no changing them, ain't no breaking them. Real Portland live from the Hard Rock Stadium. Ball 14 for the orange and green. We see the 6-Ring champs. It's more than a dream. This is life on the field. Beyond 100 yards, a hurricane that's never still put a damage to your squad. The 6-Ring Kane show. The 6-Ring Kane show. The 6 Rings Kane show. You know.
What's wrong with us? Seriously.
What's wrong with us? We're Miami Hurricanes fans.
Welcome to the 6 Rings Kane Show, a show dedicated to Miami Hurricane sports, featuring the legendary Larry Bluestein, Jazz Santana, Vish, and Danny Gillette. Let's go Canes.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another edition of the 6 Rings Kane Show, joined by DJ and Blue. How are you going? How's it going, guys?
Good. I know you've had your 48-hour cooling off period.
I don't know how cooled off I am. I've got a new target, though. We'll get into that in a bit. Jazz should be joining us shortly. We got a packed show here. We gotta talk a little bit about that Syracuse game, and then talk about Kane's playoff chances, and then of course we got Mr. Bluestein and DJ here to talk about early National Signing Day on Wednesday. Been a rough day for the Canes on that front too as well. We'll definitely get into that as well. But first, we're starting to see the problems pile up here, and you who's got solutions. You break, we'll fix. So if you've ever run over a pothole so hard it causes your steering wheel to shake, or if you have to keep adding air to your tires, there might be an issue with your wheels, and You Brake Wheel Fix is your solution. You Brake Wheel Fix is Miami's premier wheel repair and restoration company with over 20 years of experience. They're located in North Miami. They offer quick repairs, and in cases where it takes longer than that, they'll give you a free loaner. And they do more than just repairs. If your tires are looking weathered and you want to freshen them up, they'll do that. They do powder coating, machining, polishing. They'll make the car look new. So contact Mark and his staff at 305-748-0112 and follow them on all socials at You Brake Wheel Fix. And if you mention 5 reasons, you will get 5.5% off your next repair. That's You Brake Powder Coating and Wheel Repair, 305-748-0112, located at 1848 Northeast 143rd Street in North Miami, Florida. All right, guys. So we did a rage-filled, and apologies for those children that listened to my profanity on Saturday night. Show on Saturday Night Blue. We did not get your initial reactions to there's no way to sugarcoat this. A complete collapse by the Miami Hurricanes, up 21 points with the opportunity to easily coast into the ACC championship game and coming apart there.
Yeah. Well. Yeah, I to be honest with you, I never thought that 21 points would hold up. I've watched Syracuse live games 5 times this year, and when you throw that much, you're never out of the game. And the whole thing is and the Miami fans understand the way I feel about it now. You're not gonna. I mean, all this. We had communications, and we're putting this guy. Yeah. Their defense was what it was all year. It looked horrible, the secondary. But let's not pin all the blame. I know that everybody went right after Guidry, and that's fine, and he deserves a lot of the blame, but not all of it. During the course of the week, I'm sure they They drew up a lot of different game plans and called a lot of different schemes. But if the players aren't good enough to do the schemes, which they aren't, and that's it. I mean, I think we were thinking that their defense would all of a sudden become one of the best in the country. It's just not. It just wasn't going to happen. I don't care. It didn't happen against everybody this year. Even Wake Forest got 400 yards. But Miami's offense, there was play calling that I was kind of questioning, but still 500 yards of offense and. Big plays. Obviously, the Restrepo fumble was a big play, but then he came back and redeemed himself. I would never say anything bad about him for all the games he bailed Miami out of this year. So he's entitled to make a mistake here and there. The field goal, the whole thing is you kick a field goal, you're still down. You're still down by 7. If they score again, you still give the ball back. And they could score again, and you weren't stopping them. So the 3 points meant really nothing. You had to come up with a stop one way or another. So I'm not gonna go to task on that.
For me, Blue, the mistake on that was that entire drive taking 6 minutes off the clock. When so at that point, I agree with you. Like if they kicked the field goal, which they did, or if they went for it, I think I get it. I get it. You like, let's get when the chips are down, Cam Ward's the best player on the team.
Yeah.
I get that argument. However, converting 4th and goal from the 10 is a very low percentage play. And even if you hit that, it's like you said, it's the same problem.
You still have to stop them.
You're still not stopping them. The game is still going to end with them scoring.
Yeah,
and that's why my fault there was the way that drive unfolded, where we got the ball over 9 minutes left. They need to think, how do we get the ball back twice? We need a 2-for-1 here to then force overtime. Like let's be real. That's the way the defense was playing. So the only way you're going to do that is if you score in like three-ish minutes. Score with around 6 minutes left, and then you've done what you need to do. You'll have a chance to get the ball back. Once they took that much time off the clock, Syracuse was going to get the ball last, and that was that. Like there was no at that point. So I know there's a lot of focus on the decision to kick the field goal. Look, when your defense is that bad, there's no right answer, other than maybe, frankly, maybe should have onside kicked it.
Yeah, well,
I think that actually might not have been, because the field goal does give you then that buffer to if Syracuse kicks a field goal back, you're still within a touchdown. So maybe an onside kick would have been the play there, just understanding. And I think that's one thing I will fault the entire coaching staff for, and understanding. I agree with what Blue said. There has to be some onus on the players too. It can't just be the coach. But the situational game management this year has been pretty awful, even in wins. And this was a situation where, to your point, Blue, 21-0. And actually, you called this out last week. Syracuse did the same thing to Virginia Tech. And you called that out and said, Virginia Tech was up huge in that game. I think about the same margin.
Yeah.
And lost in overtime. When you're up 21-7, and you understand each team has got the ball 3 times. The first stop was Syracuse walked into the end zone and got called back on a penalty. That was the correct call, despite Matt Austin saying, well, it's the correct call, but I would have let it go, which doesn't even make sense. But it wasn't a play-affecting call. So, them lining up in an illegal formation is not why they scored that touchdown. Then you stop them off a great play by Besant in short yards, and they scored again easily. At that point in your head, you got to be saying, they're going to keep scoring.
Yeah.
You have got to then almost go into Georgia Tech mode of, we need to shorten the game. When you're playing with 2 touchdown lead, you want less possessions, not more. Instead, they took that opportunity to put Jordan Lyle in the game for 2 possessions. And he didn't run well on the plays he got the ball on. Not his fault. It's just not the time to go to the freshman running back when you had Martinez and Fletcher running well. And I feel like they didn't really take, as Blue, as you acknowledged, like that wasn't going to hold up. I don't think they took that seriously. I think they thought they kind of played those possessions in the second quarter, and I'm sure they would love to have them back, as if the game was over. They put in a bunch of backups. They didn't stick to the running game, which what they had been doing early was using the run to set up the pass. Those 2 possessions, if you look, it was throwing first, and it was with Lyle, and it's their 3rd string running back. And to me, that's not a team that really feels threatened. and they should have known better. Because in addition to Syracuse having done this before, look, man, we've all watched this defense play. It is what it is. That's not good. That's being generous. So, I mean, at that point, you gotta just think shorten the game. Like all you need to do, honestly, if you take that ball after you're down 21-7, you pound it with Martinez and Fletcher. You let the clock bleed. Even if you just kick a field goal, it's basically half over. You're going in up 24-7. Then the game probably is over. Instead, you quickly go 3 and out. They score, and it's right there. In fact, they got another possession then half, which the Canes stopped. I think it was the last stop they made the whole game, other than that fumble. So, yeah, I mean, it is what it is. The defense is terrible. The offense is great, and that's kind of what transpired here. And that's kind of been the story. I mean, we saw the whole, literally everything we've talked about on the show unfolding in a 60-minute game, right? We saw the defense playing terrible. We saw Cam Ward being by far the best player on the field. We saw the run game being very effective, but then probably not leaning on it enough, and that coming to bear. We saw bad clock management. We saw it all, and this is a flawed team, which is why it has 2 losses, and we kind of saw those flaws.
Yeah, I'm not going to sit there disagreeing with you. I mean, the whole thing is we kind of, I know that every week when there's a new team and you always want to be optimistic, and I watch these teams play. That's what I try to tell people. I watch these teams play before, they play Miami, and you kind of put Miami into the mix, and you go, I don't know. I don't think they're going to stop. Miami's not going to stop them. They're just not. They got too many good wide receivers. They run the ball well. They got a really good quarterback. So the only thing is you got to just stay with them, and just like they did with Cal, like they did with Louisville, you just got to outscore them. And
with Virginia Tech as well as a similar.
Well,
it's just
you bring up a great point, because someone said that to me the other day. I said, listen. Ever since, they played Florida really well, and they can't say, anything bad, because they really did a great job. And as things worked out, Florida's, had a really, really good season towards the end, and kudos to them. But the Ball State and Florida A&M game, that was it. After that, Virginia Tech all the way on, there wasn't an easy game.
USF was pretty
well,
solid.
Even then, they competed.
USF had their moments, but I mean,
yeah,
there's definitely a line in the sand where all of a sudden everyone was scoring 30 points. Ironically, except for Georgia Tech, because they intentionally bled the clock down and held the ball, so they got to the high 20s, even though that was they employed a strategy that usually gets you into the teens, and they hit the high 20s on us. But I think there's kind of a little bit of a dotted line there. And then after that, even beating Duke by 20. Yeah, no.
You're down by 11 at halftime.
Yeah, and beating Duke, by 22 points because you scored 53.
Yeah.
I mean,
the USF
go ahead,
game,
DJ.
Sorry about that. The USF game, I thought, obviously we took care of business, but that was the first game where I felt that cracks really started to show a little bit, because you saw USF's up-tempo offense. And, for some reason, the announcer was like, oh, USF can't keep up with the Heat, blah, blah, blah. And they were making a big deal about the Heat.
Yeah, that was stupid. Like they're in Nome, Alaska, they're –
Yeah, no crap. It's hot in Florida in September. Who would have thought of that? But, USF's high-tempo type of offense and stuff like that, that's where it kind of gave our secondary a little bit of, some trouble here. Now, we took care of business, and I'm not saying that USF – competed with us all the way through. But I did notice some things that made me kind of say, let's see if this continues throughout the rest of the season. Let's see if they can match up defensively with high-powered offensive opponents. And unfortunately, in a lot of these games, that's not been the case.
Yeah, and that was also the beginning of kind of some of what we, ended up costing us games, which I think, both Georgia Tech and Syracuse, these instances of giving up explosive plays in long yardage situations, which really shouldn't happen. We saw that again against Syracuse after Barron, who, they released him for witness protection. He made a couple of nice plays on Saturday. He might have been our best defensive player, which isn't saying much, but he made that sack in the second half, and you're like, all right, 2nd and 20. We're in single coverage, man. They throw a 30-yard pass to a wide open receiver. It's like, all right, then. But USF was the first game. I believe they called like a screen pass or something like that. There was one where it was like 3rd and 17. They basically did a give up play and got the first down. We've seen that all year long. Wake Forest did it on their first touchdown drive. Georgia Tech, of course, right at the beginning of the fourth quarter, need that big stop there, go up a 4th and 17 because the guys are running wide open. So, yeah, I agree with you, DJ. I think the cracks started to show USF. And then they really, really came through right after that when, could not stop Virginia Tech.
Or California.
That carried through the really other than FSU at that point. And Wake Forest, too. Those are two games that, the defense did play well, but
but the opponent.
Those are. It's not an accident. It's not an accident. Those are the 2 worst teams on our schedule after those first set of games. And Blue, we did talk about last week. There's a completely different challenge with Syracuse being pass happy versus even though Georgia Tech beat us, obviously that wasn't a great game for the defense. They're run heavy. Wake Forest is run heavy, so this was a little bit of. And boy, did they fail that challenge. Oh wow! We're like, all right, let's see what the secondary's got, and what we found was not promising. I do think as much as we want to, you call this out, Blue. At this point, you're calling defenses that the players can't execute, and I don't understand why. We talked last week about how there was some heavy player rotation. We kind of saw them revert back to. 1 and 7 are going to be on the field at all times. And after kind of rotating away from that 2 weeks ago, and that first touchdown was a perfect encapsulation. They ran right up the middle and they both missed the tackle and into the end zone they go on. Again, 2nd and goal from the 9. You should force a field goal there. And they run a draw and get into the end zone on one play because we missed a bunch of tackles in the hole. And, it's the same players doing the same thing. It's the same play calls. Like at what point, OJ Frederick has had an amazing freshman season. At what point do you give him safety help when he's just getting roasted out there? It's like, to me, yes, we can fault the players. I'm sure there is a conceptual execution of these coaches are not dummies. You can say whatever you want. They are professional. They've been doing this their entire lives. They're not calling a defense designed to flail. So this whole thing of there is a world in which whatever we were calling executed correctly would have worked. However, I do fault Guidry for the lack of adjustments. It was, how many times you are going to leave your corners on island and we talked about this last week too. I think DJ pointed out Syracuse leads the country in contested catches. How long are you going to leave single coverage out there knowing that that's basically pitch and catch for this team? At some point, you got to mix something up. Roll the safety over the top or something. We just didn't do any of that. And so they were still stealing candy from a baby. It wasn't even underneath. It wasn't even slow. It was just, we can throw a 30-yard pass into the single coverage and catch on every play. And they kind of did that. So I do think the lack of adjustments is certainly on Guidry. And I don't know. I guess he did make one adjustment. He decided that Mesidor was our best cover corner because he kept putting him out in coverage. He
put him out there.
Oh my God, I don't know what that was. I
cannot. My mind. I don't understand.
This is a man that I love Mesidor. I think he's a fantastic player, and I frankly think he should have gotten more uses at his natural position, which is defensive end this year. But this is a guy we've been platooning between end and tackle, and we've got him out in coverage. How is that going to work?
It's not.
Well, yeah, it didn't, obviously. So, but just to me, there's some frustrating things there. I do think the game, despite our deficiencies, if we manage that game a little better, again, I don't know that we, as much as you're we're up 21-0, offensively, we were playing well. Again, defensively is more hanging on for dear life, got away with some stuff, and somehow, they didn't score on their first 2 drives. One was a 4th down stop when they were driving. The other, again, was a short yardage where West made a great play and knocked the ball away and just got off the field. But it was very much, trying to avoid getting run over there and just hanging on there. But it was fortunate, 21-0. And, I thought poorly managed the rest of the game from there. And And I think, at that point, maybe you do play a little bit more of, cover 4, back people off a little bit, not full prevent, but make them drive the ball and take time to do it, shorten the game, run the ball more on offense, and they probably don't get to 42 points. As you said, they're not going to – we're not going to win 21 to something ever.
No,
that's just so that was never going to hold up. But you could have shortened the game and had that 21-point lead more substantive than it was, which was 3 plays into the second half, and the game was already tied. It could have held up longer than that. And yeah, I echo what you said about Restrepo. It's it's unfortunate. Kid's a warrior. He's gave everything to the school, and I will not tolerate people trying to point the finger at him and say you lost the game in a game
definitely
where he was spectacular as always.
And like you brought this up on Saturday, Vish, and I'll say it again because I think it's a really good point. The offense has to play almost perfect in order to keep this team in these games. And, a fumble, a very rare fumble by a sure-handed receiver like Restrepo suddenly gets magnified because the defense can't hold their end of the bargain. I mean, the offense had another great day, and yet, the Restrepo fumble and some of the things the offense didn't do are focal talking points because the defense couldn't hold their end of the bargain. And quite frankly, that's not fair.
Yeah, no, they have to be perfect, and they weren't. That fumble was the biggest play of the game. Well, secondarily, there was, and this video's going around, I'm sure everyone's seen it, there was a atrocious, terrible call on Rivers where he got called for holding on that long Davian Martinez run where he just pancaked the linebacker. And that is the drive, other than the fumble that the Canes didn't score on in the second half. That's the first one that flipped. So at this point, for those scoring at home, at this point it was touchdown back and forth because the Canes went up 28-21. Then Syracuse scored. And the reason it flipped was the fumble return for a touchdown. That's when Syracuse was ahead. But before that, the Canes also did not score on a possession because of that holding call. So that was the first one that flipped it. Of course, then Syracuse fumbled, but the Canes fumbled into a touchdown after that. But that was a huge call as well. So, but again, to DJ's point, when you're saying one holding call, one this, one that, because the offense had to be perfect. I mean, the reality is the defense just isn't good enough, and we're not expecting them to be good. They just need to not be that. And they were that. And that's unfortunate. And actually, I cannot believe I'm, of all people, saying this. Mark D'Onofrio goes undefeated with this offense. Like, this is the worst defense I've ever seen. And I feel like at the very least, he could have held them to some field goals. The fact that even in the red zone, in compressed situations, you're just getting, just like, even there was one of those was like 3rd and goal from the 10, that jump ball where Porter just got physically abused. And it was not offensive pass interference. I know some reference like he didn't push off. The receiver just got the right position. Yeah, no, he's again. Maybe why are you rolling safeties over the top? That should have been a double coverage all day. They love to throw that route. So and D'Onofrio, even on the 1 yard line, will have 8 guys deep in the end zone. So I feel like, which we saw too. So, but anyway, yeah, no, I mean, it is what it is at this point. But yeah, no, I don't. This is one of those that's going to stick with you. 21 up 21-0. Both hands on the ACC tournament ticket and then blowing it. I mean, let's be real. The defense was kind of same with average defense for the ACC championship game. The average defense were 12-0. I mean, that's the reality of it. Although we did learn that Georgia Tech is now all of a sudden a lot better than people thought they were when Miami lost to them, which is funny. Yeah, now that Georgia went to 8 overtimes with them, all of a sudden, maybe that Georgia Tech team ain't that bad, right?
Yeah, right. Good bonus points.
Yeah.
See, and that's why I think that, to me, when they're figuring out, the top 12, obviously they'll do it after the conference championships. But to me, the very fact that if they look down and they see Alabama, who lost to two 6-6 teams. See, and that's the thing that whenever, Alabama deserves to be in. Why? Because they lost to a 6-6 Vanderbilt team and a 6-6 Oklahoma team. The Miami's 2 losses, I believe, were to a 9-3 team. Right. And then a program that, as you said, took Georgia into 8 overtimes. So, I mean, and I'm only, the bitter part of me, and it's been the last couple of years, is opting out of bowl games. And I don't care what people want to fight me on or not. I mean, with this crap with, they get CTE, but they can't get them in a playoff game, and they can't get them in a conference championship game, only in a bowl game. And to me, the bowl game is designed to reward kids for a great job, seniors especially. They get some really good gear, they spend a week and have a good time, and and play another game. I mean, and I know that a lot of people out there disagree, but that's a sticking point with me. I think these sponsors of the bowl game spend millions and millions of dollars to bring a good showcase, and you have that crap like they had in the Orange Bowl last year, where Georgia and Florida State opted out. So I mean,
Georgia didn't opt out, which was part of the reason the game was 70-0. They brought
their actual team. They had a few guys, but
Florida State brought their scout team, and it showed. But I will say, in the one, God, I can't believe I have to defend Florida State's players, but if I went undefeated and the committee told me you're not making a 4-team playoff because you're putting in a team that lost, I might be like, why? You're saying me the games don't matter. I understand what you're saying. I agree with you, Blue, generally. Like, if it was me, one last time for these kids to play, put on that uniform, play for that school, it's an experience. Yeah. And I think the kids opting out, looking back on it, will be like, oh, I wish I'd experienced that.
Sure they would.
But I can understand that team in particular being like, they just told us these games don't even matter. We won 13 of these things and lost 0, and you told me it didn't matter. Yep. Why am I going to go play this then?
Yep.
And that's the one situation I get. I can't believe I'm defending Florida State. Where I'm like, you know what? I kind of get it. If I did all of that when undefeated, but I think generally, I think again, we're all, even DJ, older than these kids. With perspective, you understand these moments are fleeting and these opportunities to do these things are small.
Right.
And the NFL will be there anyway, whether you play that bowl game or not. And so, it's easy to have that perspective now when at the end of the season, they've got every financial advisor, their agents in their ear saying, do not play that game. If you get injured, that's your family's, retirement gone. So.
But it could have been gone in the Syracuse game and the Wake Forest game.
Yeah, no, absolutely. No, I get it. I get it. But they're being advised not to play. No, totally. I'm on the same page. It could happen in practice. Like, it could happen when you're doing the scouting combine. It could happen, there's non-contact injuries all the time. You're doing your pro day and you cut wrong, and there goes first round pick to 5th round pick now. Like, all that can happen.
Oh well.
So,
I told you not to play in that Georgia Tech game. You know what? You could have gotten hurt.
Yeah. So I think that I'm generally agreeing with it, but I understand FSU's players being like, I'm not participating in this farce.
No,
they did that to us. No. It's like, I'm not going to the consolation game after you did. We didn't lose a single game and you did that. I'm not going to a consolation game.
Yeah.
So that one I understand, but generally, so DJ, Blue did a good transition here. So what are your thoughts on the? So just to reset for everyone, where the Canes currently stand, there are essentially 11 of the 12 spots accounted for. It's going to be the 4 Big Ten teams, because Ohio State losing apparently has no effect when they picked up their second loss. I'm not at it.
Doesn't
matter. Why not?
Yeah.
Right, they're in
a 7-5 team, so that's all right.
at home, but
that's
home,
okay. But that's
okay though. That's no effect to their playoff chances. They're in for sure. So there's 4 Big Ten teams. There's 3 SEC teams, which are Georgia, Texas, Tennessee. Georgia and Tennessee also have 2 losses, but they're locked in. So we can understand 10-2 is a good record apparently for some teams.
If there's one team I will vouch for, it's Georgia.
Yeah, no, and I agree they played the schedule, but then again, if you're gonna say that, and we're 10-2, what are those losses being? By 5 points at a team, they needed 8 overtimes and some very dodgy officiating to beat at home.
Yeah,
I feel that means that our 10-2 also matters. But anyway, so there's 3 SEC teams. That's 7 of them. And then there's going to be Boise State or Blues team UNLV. One of those two will
Friday night,
will
baby.
Claim an 8
Friday
spot.
Night at 8. Let's get it.
The Big 12. Yeah, so that's definitely happening. Then the Notre Dame will claim one of the spots. That's 9. The Big 12 champion will claim one. And then who am I missing? I should have done this from memory. Oh, the ACC champion.
Yeah, there you go.
we'll claim him, but not
SMU.
us. But not us.
I just don't
So
see how
that takes
fun
us to 11. That takes us to 11, and so there's that one spot left, and basically, so here there's two scenarios. One is Clemson pulls the upset, which Blue is obviously skeptical of. If they pull that upset, in my opinion, it's a no-brainer. SMU's still in. They went 11-1.
They should be.
And so they should claim that last at-large spot and be the 12th team. Clemson will be automatically in. To me, that's fine. If SMU are to win, there's still the one at-large spot, and it's basically
South Carolina's screaming a lot.
Miami. Well, here it is. It's Miami, Alabama, Ole Miss, and South Carolina.
Ooh.
So we'll actually know tomorrow, because depending on because none of those teams play this weekend, so wherever they put them in the pecking order is probably going to stick. So we'll know who would benefit from SMU winning versus not on tomorrow night. So this is where it is. So it's 3 9-3 SEC teams and the 10-2 Hurricanes. DJ, I'll start with you. What do you think of the Canes' chances?
Do I think they should be in? Yes, obviously. Do I think they will be in? No. I think they'll somehow figure out how to put Alabama in there. Because they've already wanted they made it very clear that they want Alabama in the college football playoff and in this expanded playoff and whatever. And they know Alabama will draw the eyes, and they know that Alabama brings the money. Not that Miami doesn't, but we already know that they love the SEC. I mean, they had South Carolina in there at one point. So, I mean, they'll do whatever it takes.
They deserve to be in before Alabama, in my opinion.
Well, this is the thing, though. This is where it gets, and Alfredo asked a question as well, which I'll answer in a second, because I think I pretty much caused a lot of this ACC Twitter push. If you've been following my Twitter, I am guerrilla marketing the Miami Hurricanes case, and one of the tweets took off, and now the stat is, so if you look at Miami versus Alabama, Miami has played 6 bowl teams on the road and is 4-2. Alabama has played 4 and is 1-3 in those games. I posted that. It went viral, and now ESPN actually has a graphic floating around with it on there, and ACC networks mentioning it all their shows. So we're trying to guerrilla market our way into this, but and because I think one of the falsehoods, I am always skeptical, because in my mind corruption always wins, and the business relationship is with the SEC. It's not with the ACC.
Yeah.
And so that's where, but in terms of who deserves it, it's not even a question. Since when do we ignore record? That's how we decide everything in sports. You look at the record. People are making arguments as if they're breaking a tie. There's no tie.
But FSU said that thing last year.
No, I know, and that's why I'm skeptical. I'm talking about meritocracy, and then the reality of the corruption is going to probably hit us in the face tomorrow night. But meritocracy, this isn't even a debate. Why would you put the team in with the worst record? And to your point, Blue, it's not, and this is one of the things I keep harping on. This is why that stat's relevant of, the Canes going 4-2 against bowl teams on the road. First of all, who plays 6 bowl teams on the road? That's crazy.
Certainly not Ohio State.
And that's where when people say, well, that Miami didn't play anyone, they played teams. 6 bowl teams on the road, in fact. That's a lot. And so the reason that stat's relevant, and again, the stat is, Miami went 4-2 against bowl teams on the road. Miami went 4-2 against bowl teams on the road. Alabama went 1-3 against bowl teams on the road. The reason that's relevant is they start, because they always like to do the hypotheticals. What would Miami do on Alabama's schedule? I don't know. Miami's undefeated at home. The best team they play at home is Duke, and they blew them out. So would they beat Georgia at home? I don't know. Georgia's 10-2. It's not like they're unbeatable. So I don't know. Would they? But I'll tell you one thing. I'll tell you who struggles against 500 and better teams on the road. How would Alabama have gone 10-2 on Miami's schedule when they're 1-3 against a type of opponent that Miami played 6 of? Probably not, given that they lost 3 on their own schedule out of the 4.
And miserably. Oklahoma.
And then that doesn't even get into like the nature of those games. So that's why that stat is relevant, because everyone wants to say, well, Miami couldn't hold up the SEC.
That's
I don't think Alabama would be 10-2 on Miami's schedule because they stink on the road. And you said, and as much as, and teams like Cal, they want to make fun of. They went into Auburn and won. Right? They all want to point the finger. Look what Georgia Tech did at Georgia. If that game was in Atlanta, does Georgia win that game? Probably not.
Stanford went into Syracuse and blew them away.
Yeah. So I mean, but again, I think the overarching point is you are asking the committee to ignore the records. You better have an airtight reason for that. It cannot be, well, Alabama has one more quality win. That's not enough to say 10 wins is worse than 9 wins.
They have two horrific losses. Miami's losses were both on the road, close games. Alabama got blown away at Oklahoma, and they got under 200 yards of freaking offense against Vanderbilt. So I don't.
Yeah, Miami has 2 losses by 9 points. Alabama has 3 by 33 points. Yeah, that has to matter. And I get what you're saying. Blue South Carolina might be playing the best now.
They probably would be.
But them losing to Ole Miss by 24 points also has to matter.
Right.
Ole Miss losing to Kentucky at home has to matter. And by the way, we have common opponents with Ole Miss. People want to pretend like that Florida game for us doesn't count for some reason. 24 points won there. That game happened, whether they want to admit it or not.
Yeah. And that's why they got to take every game into account. They have to. They have to, sit around and say, I mean, to me, I would have each each person take a team, okay, and go through the entire scenario and then bring that up in a discussion. Okay, here's Miami. This is what they did. Okay, blah, blah, blah. What you just said, let's shoot holes in it. Okay, if there's not enough holes they could shoot into it, let's go to Alabama. Look what happened there. They were 1-3 on the road. The stats that you brought out, I think every team should be dissected like that.
Right.
Really.
And at the end of the day, to me, when you're saying, well, and you can argue for and against any of those kinds of stats, right? Because you can also point out what's Miami's best win. I guess it's 9-3 Duke, or you can call 8-4 Louisville on the road, maybe tougher, or maybe even 7-5 Florida if you just want to say only the SEC is good at football. So there's not, that's the argument against Miami. Whereas, Ole Miss and Alabama have beaten Georgia, which is definitely better than any of Miami's wins. No one's disputing it. But when you start getting into this, well, if you look at it this way, that's if you value better wins, it's this. If you value like worse losses, it's that. And you start parsing on this again. One of the teams is 10-2. The other ones are all 9-3. Usually, you only use these tiebreaker arguments when it's tied.
Well,
it's not tied.
For all those people, the last 3 years said, "I can't wait to go to 12 teams because there won't be an argument." Okay, I hear you. Remember.
But actually, I don't. Last year was like the original sin, right? Because I don't think without what happened to Florida State last year, make no mistake, they got screwed. That anyone's even arguing this. Because who in their right mind before ever thought, you know what? Let's put the team with the worst record in. That was never even anyone would even have the temerity to argue that. And if you look back last year, they didn't argue that. They made, because it was such a stupid argument to say, well, we think Alabama's better because look at their quality wins or whatever, even though they had a worse record. Instead, they argued, well, Florida State's quarterback is injured, so they're not even good anymore. And that was, which is, of course, an excuse looking for a reason, right? I mean, they were going to put the SEC team in. They had to figure out a way to justify it. And, by fluke, Florida State's bad luck, Alabama happened to have played Texas at home and gotten blown out. So they couldn't leave Texas out and put Alabama in. Otherwise, that's what they would have done. But when they couldn't do that, and then I guarantee you if Georgia had won the championship game against Alabama, they would have been the number 1 team. Florida State would have still been in because they could have just left Texas out. But they couldn't leave Texas out and put Alabama in. So then Florida State got sacrificed and they reverse engineered the solution. But even then, their explanation was never, well, we think the resume of the team with the worst record is better. It was some made up excuse about injuries.
Here's another thing. After Saturday, Georgia could have 4 losses. Or 3 losses. I'm sorry.
3 losses. Well, this is where, in my mind, you're sitting there. So I do agree. And the ACC commissioner came out and said this, and obviously he's politicking for SMU partially as well. That you shouldn't be punished for playing an extra game because you qualified for your conference championship game. So
okay,
I am fine with them treating them as like a 2-loss team, even if they lose that game. I'm okay with that. But if they want to go and argue, well, Alabama's also a 3-loss team and move them behind Alabama because Alabama beat them, they can do that and swap one SEC team for another. But what they should not do is keep a 2-loss Miami team out in favor of these 3-loss teams. To me, that's nonsense. And that is that's what the argument is, but that's not even again, you're using tiebreaker arguments and parsing resumes when one team is not tied. And to me, that's the problem, because that's never, until last year, that would never have been the case. And that kind of opened up Pandora's box now of, well, the team, there is precedent now for the team with the worst record getting in instead. And it's kind of a nonsense argument, but we'll see how that plays out. But again, that'll be decided tomorrow. We are doing our best to push the narrative, because to your point, Blue, I'd like a fair hearing on this, because this nonsense that Miami didn't play anyone, that's just a lot. It's a lie. There's a lot of lies being told. And I can't believe we've come full circle to Missouri being ranked for no reason, but they're counting that as a ranked win for these teams. Missouri is at the bottom of the top 25, and Duke has the same record. They're not ranked. There's no difference between those teams. But Miami doesn't have a ranked win because Duke is like 26th and Missouri is 25th. There's a lot of bad faith arguments being made, right? Like, there's nothing separating Missouri or Texas A&M and Louisville and Duke. They're all like the same caliber team. So why, just because we arbitrarily cut off at number 25, and if it went to 30, then there's like 3 ACC teams there. So there's a lot of bad faith arguments being made, but the idea that Miami didn't play anyone when they played 6 road games against bowl teams is nonsense. And I'm not saying Bama's schedule wasn't harder overall, but they don't have more losses because their schedule is harder. They have more losses because they lost to bad teams, and they lost to bad teams that Miami did not. As much as people are bagging on Miami for getting 10 wins against, quote, nobody, all those other teams that we're mentioning lost to those nobodies.
Slow.
So
true.
They should, Alabama should not have lost to Oklahoma by 21 points. Oklahoma and Vanderbilt are bowl eligible because they played Alabama and beat them.
Yeah, that's funny.
Otherwise, they would not be bowl teams. They're going bowling because they got lucky that they got to play Alabama at home. Because Alabama's a bad road team. And by the way, to kind of close this point off, then we'll do some Underdog, and then we'll talk National Signing Day. The road record is particularly important because you're actually sending this team on the road. So if you have a team that is 4-2 on the road against bowl teams, and you have a team that's 1-3 on the road against bowl teams, that should matter. Because you're asking, whoever it is not going to be hosting. You're going to be on the road playing a good team. That should matter. And, and that's why when people are like, who cares about the road ringer? Well, that's actually where this game is going to be played. So the team that's more likely to win that should probably get the nod, all things being equal, which again, not equal because one team has a better record, which I'm going to keep repeating because it's the most important part. 10 wins is nothing to sneeze at in college football. And if it was that easy, Alabama or South Carolina or Ole Miss would have been able to win 10 games, but it's not. All right, Jazz has showed up as well, so we're going to hit the Underdog, and then we'll bring him in and do some, one cheery topic to the next. We'll talk about National Signing Day. If I can find the ad. Well, that's doing like our defense right now. Here we go. That bouncing ball can only mean one thing. It's time to hoop. And with Underdog Fantasy, you can play higher or lower on all your favorite players, like Miami's own Tim Hardaway Jr. I love Underdog's Win Now feature, which lets you cash out whenever you want. So join over 5 million fans that are already playing on Underdog. And with their Pick'em game, you could win money by making entries with your favorite players. Download the app today and use code 5REASONS to get up to $1,000 in bonus cast instantly. That's UnderdogFantasy.com and the offer code 5REASONS to get up to $1,000 in bonus cast. That is FIVEREASONS. Must be 18 or older, 19 or older in Alabama and Nebraska, 19 or older in Colorado for some games, 21 or older in Massachusetts and Arizona, and present in a state where Underdog Fantasy operates. Terms apply. Void in Colorado. Concerned with your play? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. Visit www.ncpgambling.org. In Arizona, call 1-800-NEXT-STEP. That's 1-800-639-8783, or text NEXT STEP to 53342. In New York, call the 24/7 Hope line at 1-877-8-HOPE-NY, or text HOPE-NY. All right, we're back here, joined by Mr. Santana as well.
Right on time.
Just in time to talk about our what's left of our recruiting class, I guess. We'll get into that in a second, but actually Terrence tying a bow on the other, and I saw that and he used my stat, which shout out to him. Everyone has picked up on the stat I threw on the internet that then went viral, and now ESPN's got graphics on it, which is, again, the Canes are 4-2 on the road against bowl teams. Alabama's 1-3.
Yeah, shout out to Mark Packer.
Yeah, Mark Packer. We've got, like I said, there's a full court where, look, the corruption is what it is. There's probably some executive at ESPN called, like manager in charge of SEC affairs that's just going to make a phone call to the committee, and that'll be that. But, there is an attempt to at least, get Miami a fair evaluation by actually looking beyond people just frankly gaslighting on the quality of the teams that Miami played. So let's hope that happened.
By the way, is that Blue wearing headphones? What's going on here today? In the Twilight Zone?
Yeah, no, not really. It's just I'm wearing them because there was some outside noise here that I couldn't hear.
Oh, you're having a party there, aren't you, Blue?
Well, the neighbors are getting a little wild, so it's almost as unusual you without a hat.
I know, right? You saw that? I'm going hatless. I got so many things going on.
You can spot my headphones, but I can't spot your hat. Come on, man.
I know. I was trying to do a la Danny Gillette today. No hat.
Yeah.
I
have to shave that hair.
Just got a little more hair for now. We'll see. We'll see as I get older.
DJ uses that Manscape every other day there on.
I do.
Let's get that back.
I'm about to say, Blue, don't do free advertising, man. They have not kicked it in. It's been several years since we had Smooth Sack Summer. Let's not let's not give them free advertising here.
Well, I know you guys went through it all already with
Jazz, why don't you give your thoughts real quick on what we were discussing, and then I think you came into the very tail end of where you think the Canes. Well, I guess it's a two-part question. We'll get your thoughts, and then we'll pivot to recruiting. So, one, where do you think they should sit in relation to the three? We kind of broke down, where everything stands. So, where they should sit in relation to the three. Let's start with this. You agree that if SMU loses to Clemson, SMU should still be in front of us?
Yes.
Okay, we don't need to address that. All right. So, assuming SMU were to beat Clemson, where do you think? One, the Canes should be in relation to Alabama, South Carolina, Ole Miss, and where do you think they will be?
Yeah, look, you've gone through the resumes already. We've gone through the win-loss versus bowl-eligible teams, especially on the road, yada, yada, yada. We've gone through all of that already. The numbers speak for themselves. The stats speak for themselves. The only thing that is hurting Miami has been, the only thing that's going to hurt Miami is optics, right? And optics of how the defense has been playing, how they've lost 2 of the last 3 games. And so optics it might hurt them a little bit. I think it'll just make it harder for them because of the bias that there is. Let's put it that way, right? I think it'll just make it harder because of the optics, right? They haven't played great defense. Let's just call it what it is. It is what it is. But contrary to my outrage on Saturday, I've been able to kind of settle down a little bit and be a little more optimistic with the fact that I still think there is a shot, right? Like there's some other teams that are playing really good football right now. I know one of them is Arizona State. Indiana still playing some good football. South Carolina, I think, is the biggest one. I think right now that Ole Miss, to me, is out of the picture. They've been playing like crap against crap teams, and I understand that they're exciting to watch also, but they're not the best offense in the in college football. Miami is, right? They don't have the best quarterback in college football. Miami does. Here's where I think it benefits Miami to get in, and where I think they're ranked, just to kind of go off the bat. If SMU wins, I think they should be 11-12, somewhere around there. That's probably where they're going to land if SMU wins, which I'm hoping. Here's where I think Miami might actually be a good play for college football, for ESPN, for TV and everything. If you pair them up against Notre Dame in the first round,
Yeah.
You're gonna break some crazy numbers.
I think Notre Dame's playing better than anybody right now.
They are. They're playing good. They're playing
real good.
But as much as you know how a lot of people say throw out the records, no, you can't throw out the records. The records are where they are, especially when you're trying to rank them for the college football playoff. Now, when you talk about rivalries are concerned, yeah, you can throw out the records. This is why I'm saying you might be able to just throw out everything, and you put these two together in a field, even if it's in South Bend, and you got yourself a ratings bomb, right? Like it's going to go crazy.
Oh, yeah.
They're going to
Friday night ratings bomb
into that game. And so I think that they see that as an opportunity potentially, which would be great, and like a 6-11 matchup.
That'd be awesome, yeah.
So that's where I think it helps Miami there.
I think this also, Terrence's point also helps a lot. Like I think if South Carolina was the only 3-loss SEC team, and it was a straight again, I'm gonna reiterate again, 10-2 is better than 9-3 significantly. They play 12 games. Like 1 win is a lot. Right. People just want to gloss over that. But South Carolina doesn't have the bad losses that Ole Miss and Alabama do. Their resume is probably over a little stronger, except Ole Miss beat them by 24 points in Columbia. Like how you can't just pretend that didn't happen.
Yeah. No.
And I think having those 3 teams there infighting, it's kind of like, well, or you can have the team with the better record, Miami, just in front of them and just make it clean, right?
That's the thing, right? But
just a lot. How about we just have the best team in front?
Alabama, let's not talk about them, right? They got their asses handed to them, Vanderbilt, and by a subpar Oklahoma team.
Yeah, and they're also not playing well right now either. Neither is Ole Miss, right? Ole Miss obviously lost to Florida and then struggled a lot with Mississippi State, who's just awful. And then Alabama got blown out by Oklahoma and struggled with Auburn too. And Auburn's a 5-7 team. So like none of those teams are playing well either. But
all that to say, Miami definitely, I think, once I look back at it and I say, okay, I think they deserve a shot to be in the top 12 in the playoffs and compete, because this turns into whoever's the hottest at the moment can get hot and win a game or two, or even get to the championship game. And that's what you're kind of banking on if you put a team like Miami in. They're exciting. They can score 50 points at any point against anybody. Now, can their defense hold up? That's always going to be the question.
There's going to be scoring. There will be scoring, Jess.
There'll be scoring. And Terrence brings up another one. If they match up Miami at Penn State, that's going to be a great ratings boost as well, right? You're talking about some prolific, some old school, games that mattered back in the day with the national championship and the fatigues and all that craziness that happened. But you also got another really good matchup against 2 historic teams. So I think that
I feel like Miami would roll Penn State.
I think
I don't think we can roll anyone.
No.
The defense is good enough to roll anyone.
They would score on them.
Yeah,
no, I mean, this is again since we watch, down to way too much minutia Miami play. We know all the strengths and weaknesses. And one of the things that happens when you just get used to watching this offense play, like what they do routinely, like people don't put up 53 points on Duke. No one does that.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, there's a
9-3, by the way. Hello.
Yeah, they're 9-3 also. But I mean, I think we've gotten just for us, like almost the offense has become part of the furniture.
Yeah.
Because it's just like, well, they're going to score pretty much every time they get the ball, and hopefully that's enough. And sometimes it's not.
It's crazy to me. I know it's off topic to a certain degree, but the fact that Travis Hunter might not be—he's not the best wide receiver on his team. He might be the best corner, but I get that he's a two-way guy. He's an excellent two-way guy. Cam Ward should be the Heisman Trophy winner. If you take Travis Hunter off Colorado, you still got 3 or 4.
He'd still be 9-3.
Yeah, you still got 3 or 4 badass wide receivers there. All right, he plays one side of the field on defense, and he's a decent corner, but they still be 9-3. You take
Miami be 5-7.
you take Miami would be probably at 500, let's say, without Cam Ward.
Not even.
Let's just call it what it is, right? This is how you need to determine who the most valuable player in college football is, right? Ashton Johnson, I'm sure that if you take him off, you still got another running back that can run for 1,500 yards.
Well, I hope they do that this Friday night.
No, I think he's actually.
Does the record change?
I think it does.
100%. Yes.
In fact, I think Blues boys would have beat them the first time they played.
Yep.
If they didn't have Johnson.
They held him 134 yards, though.
Hey, there you go. Now, but significantly, I think the biggest one is Cam Ward. So that's just my case for Cam Ward as
well, I will say it's not that he's a scrub. I think people are being look. If they want to give him the Heisman because he plays both ways, and like it's an athletic feat. I don't know how you want to rate that compared to other things, but you got to be transparent about that. When you post stuff like he's an elite cornerback and he has 3 interceptions, and I'm like, Mish Powell has 5. Like, I mean, okay, let's be real here. Like, the reason is because he's playing receiver and corner, which maybe that's enough, but that just needs to be stated clearly. Like, hey, we're doing this because he plays both ways. Don't give me this. He's playing, he's the best cornerback and the best receiver in the country.
I totally agree.
He's neither of those things.
That's a narrative that people have been running with.
Chauncey and Cam Ward. Those should be your top 2.
Well, I obviously we're biased. I would be fine with Chauncey. I'm actually fine with Travis Hunter getting it as long as people just acknowledge we're doing this because he's playing every snap, and we think that physical feat, and he is playing well, not elite, but well at those, and that is enough to tip it. If they want to use that as a justification, that's fine. What I'm not going to take is BS being fed to us that this is the best wide receiver and best corner in the country, because it's not true.
No.
It's not true. It's so.
By the way, Xavier Restrepo gets snubbed for the Beneric as well. So,
I mean,
as an option, that's kind of messed up.
Yeah, no, there was a lot of weirdness there.
Anyways, okay, we can talk recruiting now. I'm sorry.
Well, just real quick because he's our guy, so we got to mention Alfredo's. I think our hope here is actually just
that's exactly what we're talking about. Yep.
Well, that's a way for TV ratings to come. Actually, our hope is that there is no corruption and they do what every sport does since the beginning of mankind, which is the team with the better record is in front.
Yeah, that's it.
So that's our hope. The ones that need stuff to like be weird and let's overanalyze and do are the SEC teams. If it's just record, which is what everything. I mean, the NFL, right? All the wild card teams do not play the same schedule. No one in their right mind would be like, well, that 10-7 team should be behind that 9-8 team because the 9-8 team played a tougher schedule. You'd be laughed out of the room.
Yeah.
So anyway. All right, let's Fresh has been chomping at the bit here to talk about today's big news. More fun for the Miami Hurricanes program.
Blue, Hilton Stubbs. I know there's some more on the way, like Gavin Nix is probably going to flip to Oregon. You're talking about some other guys that are on the fence, maybe the kid Merritt from Alabama and some others. I'm gonna before you even get to it, because I know you definitely have some stuff. I'm gonna tell you right now. I think this is the Lance Guidry effect. I think a lot of kids may know that his time is limited here, and some of those guys came into play in his, on his defense, right? And it's been a disappointment. So I think you might see some more, especially if we make a change at that position as a defensive coordinator. You're going to see some more changes, some more guys going out, and some new guys coming in. But I think that, I'll get into more of what I think is happening as well, especially over there in Florida. But, Blue, what's your take on Drake Stubbs and some of the other guys they've been talking about?
Well, I told you a couple of weeks ago about Nix. I just thought that, his trip to Oregon was he's picked up at the airport by a Brinks truck. So, obviously that gave you a little bit of an indication. Stubbs hurts because of the fact that even when he was committed to USC, he showed up 4 or 5 times at Miami. I told you I had a talk with his dad and mom and him, and they wanted to take a picture with me. And I just said, you know what? It's a great fit. When I had him on the radio show, he loved it here. I don't know if it's so much, because defenses are defenses, his scheme won't change much if they change coordinators. But I don't know. They're great. They're great losses, but I kind of believe that everything will even out because,
it always does.
There's people who are saying, well, I don't want to go to Miami because they got stubs. Now they may go. I mean, and
listen, you still picked up Amari Wallace. I know he's injured now, but he's a stud. And you picked up Bryce Fitzgerald at that position.
Yeah, he won the game for him the other day. I went, talking about recruiting. I mean, he won the game for Columbus last week on both sides of the ball. Caught a 72-yard touchdown, returned a kick, and then Malachi Tony. Jesus, he walks right in the door. And he starts. There's nobody that's going to be better than him. This kid is a beast. I mean, he played quarterback, and he wasn't just a wild.
Bell got hurt, right? Bell got hurt.
Yeah, Bell's out for the year, but I'm saying he wasn't just a wildcat quarterback. He threw 3 touchdowns, and he also freaking ran. And he's elusive. He's a beast. I mean, he's going to be just like, I'm not going to put him on JJ's level, but he's going to be that type of impact from Miami where he's going to come in and he's going to do some stuff. I mean, so Miami's going to hold on to them guys. I mean, Fitzgerald's going to sign, he's going to sign. And, and like you said, there'll be a couple of other stragglers. I think where Miami's got really good recruiting class in the last 2 classes. Those kids, and, Vish, when we were talking before, how I hate the bold defections and opting out, it's going to give a chance for Miami to take a look at some of those freshmen and sophomore kids that they got, and I think they'll do real well, because they're ready. But and then what you do is you take an evaluation process of what you have after signing day and what you may be able to get in February, and then say, okay, this is what we need to do in the portal, just like they did last year. Needed a quarterback, they needed a running back, they needed all this stuff. Miami's going to be fine. I think these people keep, everybody wants to get down on them. They won't talk about the 10 wins, but they'll certainly harp on the 2 losses. And that's, that to me, it doesn't show a really good, solid fan base or anybody who's realistic, because of the fact that here was a team that struggled to make bowls the last couple of years, and they did that by game 6 this year. So, yeah, I'm not worried. They're tough losses, and I have to be honest that I'm, a little bit hurt with Studs, because I just thought that, he was the guy. So Florida must have really rolled back the.
There's some rumors about, let's just call it significant. It's not illegal. It's significant. Contribution, right? It's part of the way the game is played now. But I will say the other thing too. It's easy to. It's easy to say, well, it's 10-2 versus a 7-5 team. You beat them by 24 points. How do you lose recruits there? I mean,
it's not that easy anymore. Yeah,
we also spent the first half of this show talking about the defense, and I mean, if you're looking at that unit, you want to be a part of that. Seriously, I mean, it's that pathetic, and it's easy to negative recruit it too. Let's say like, hey, we're going to play better defense here. Yeah, they might, Miami might be a 10-win team, but not because of their defense. Do you want to be a part of that defense? You want to be a part of ours? It's an argument you can make to any recruit at this point.
We're going to have stability on our defense as opposed to
Miami.
But they're going to be better, right? With you here, they're going to be better.
Yeah, but that's not what I doubt that's what we sold them, right? Because
initially, yeah, sure.
Right, so like he signs here to get onto a team that, last year, I think
top 20 defense last year.
Yeah, that was a really good defense that looks terrible now. And then you also look at, I don't want to set Jazz off here, but some of the guys that keep playing, and Zaquan doesn't. And it's, again, I'm not saying that's fair or not fair. I'm just saying it's easy to negative recruit that. Because usually you can't negative recruit a 10-2 team. You can negative recruit this defense, and I think that that does. Again, you can say, look, Zaquan's one of the best safeties in the country coming in. They're playing that bad, and he doesn't get snaps. You want to go there?
Right.
I'm not saying that's fair, but I'm saying it's easier to pick at. And so that's how you can lose. You can lose 10. You can lose guys off a 10-2 commitment with negative recruiting.
It's not only happening to us though. It's
happening everywhere. Yeah, you're right.
It's happening everywhere. Look, Florida has flipped 11 players in the last 15 days. 11 players flipped them. From Texas, from Alabama, from Miami, from USC, from Michigan, you name it, from FSU, whoever, you name it, they've done it. And yes, while some of that comes into play a little bit, I know, Vish, you've heard some of these rumors. I know everybody has, but the the money that's being thrown around, as far as what's being said that's being thrown around. Now, will they be able to own up to it and pay up? I don't know. Ask Jaden Rashada. But my point is, the money that has been thrown around to these guys and how much they're overpaying for so many of these guys to come in and visit, to come in and flip, to do whatever the hell is going on there. Is supposedly just absolutely wild. And look, that's going to happen. It's going to continue to happen. But be honest with you, Blue, I'm not very concerned about recruiting. I think if there's anything Mario does do right, is be the best recruiter in the land. So I'm not too concerned about that. At the end of the day, you did go 10-2. Yes, you may be having a change in defense, but let's be honest. Has everybody seen what has happened in the transfer portal in the last 48 hours? I mean, excuse my language, shit's gonna get crazy.
I was gonna say, with the new 105-man NCAA roster limits, there is going to be a lot of damn good players going into that portal.
John Mateer, by the way, is joining the portal, right? Everybody talks about Mateer. Everybody talks about Caden Salter. Finally, he hits the portal. Miller Moss hit the portal.
Andy Jean, big Andy Jean.
Andy Jean hit the portal. The quarterback from FIU, who's a really good quarterback.
Very good quarterback.
The kid Jenkins.
Deion Jenkins.
Yep, he entered the transfer portal. You got Micah Hudson. You got Concepcion. You got the other kid over at.
And there'll be a ton more in January. So,
oh my gosh, this is gonna be.
I mean, Georgia had a starter enter the portal.
Yeah, hey, Julian,
the SEC championship.
Julian, yeah.
I mean, that's where. I mean, we talked about this.
That's probably the guy we need to go after number one. By the way, but
yeah, but I mean, that's crazy. They're headed. They're a lock for the playoffs. They're headed to the SEC championship game. We hit the portal anyway, and he started.
I feel bad.
The linebacker,
I feel bad for a lot of these kids though, because a lot of these kids, they're not choosing to enter their portal. They're being told they need to go to meet these roster limits. So I just wonder where a lot of these kids are going to go. I mean, a lot of them are talented, so it's not a question of talent. There's just so many roster spots now.
Yeah. Well, I do think that's why kid is very appealing to me.
Who's that?
The quarterback from BC that transferred.
Oh, Thomas Castellanos?
Castellanos. I like that guy.
Yeah, it's another good.
Imagine surrounding him with other players that could play. Boston College didn't have, although BC had a great year though. For
they did.
They are.
Yeah,
they did.
Yeah. So I mean, there's a lot that's going to happen between now and spring ball, right? Especially in the transfer portal. I think you're going to see Mario go after some.
Has to
early.
Yeah, no, he will. He will.
Yeah.
The other thing,
we were worried that last year at this time too. So
yeah,
go ahead.
I will say we're in better shape than we were last year at this time.
Yeah.
Like we didn't. I mean, we didn't have a we'll be okay with Emory Williams. As a worst case, you would. That's definitely that's fine. We're fine with Emory Williams. Last year was coming off an injury.
Talented kid, man.
We really had. I mean, we had Jakari Brown was going to probably have to start the year just because Emory wasn't fully, able to go through camp and all that, and he couldn't really get on the field much at UCF. So until the other players got hurt, so. We're in much better. Emory Williams is certainly an.
And now they're phenom. They're freshman phenom quarterback into the transfer portal.
Yeah, and we're Emory Williams is certainly an ACC caliber starting quarterback. So we're in better shape than we were last year. We're coming off of a better season. Yeah, I agree with all of you. It'll be fine.
Raja MIA. Yeah, man. That optics. Don't let that fool you, man. Don't let that fool you. Those first 4 games from Miami's defense. Where we'll kind of put them in a position where it looks like their numbers are better than they are. That's a bad defense right now.
And it's also, it is, again, as bad as the numbers are, and you can see them sinking like a stone, they're not as bad as they would be if the offense wasn't constantly driving down the field and scoring.
Yeah.
Because, they get protected. Because the offense is scoring. So, if the offense kept going 3 and out, they'd start giving up 600-700 yards a game. They don't because the offense goes and scores. And so the offense, even when they drop fast, still taking 3 minutes off the clock, moving the ball down the field. That's and then when obviously they do put together longer drives as well, that is protecting that defense. That defense is because the offense is so good. They're not on the field as much as they would be. But we saw what happened when the offense punted second quarter against Syracuse, 2 touchdowns like immediately. It's just like if the offense went 3 and out one time and it was like in the end zone again automatically. So I mean, it's the numbers are definitely misleading there.
Blue, any names that we should look at now? December 4th is tomorrow.
Next Wednesday.
It's Wednesday. It's Wednesday.
Yeah. Wednesday.
Yeah, not
Any
Wednesday.
names that Miami should be that we should kind of keep a close eye on, that maybe Miami's still looking to flip?
You know what?
Commit?
Yeah, I'm not real sure of anybody that, right now Miami's just holding on to the kids that they have. But yeah, I mean, if I hear of any, we'll look. I've been just concentrating on some of the kids that they're losing, which is not a great thing. But I kind of knew that Nix would be shaken free 2 weeks ago when he went to Oregon, and then the coaches found out, and he didn't really care what Miami's coaches said. So that's not a very good thing as well. But yeah, we'll see. I mean, it's just I agree with Vish. Last year at this time we weren't as good along as we are now, and then that you're going to have recruiting. Like you said, I mean, the portal's just going to be stacked with kids, and I mean, let's see how Miami finishes. I mean, hopefully we're jumping the gun. Let's see if they do make the playoffs. If they don't, finish off strong with a bowl game, get into the off season, see what what can happen. There's nothing else. But yeah, that's it. Put your hat back on, he said. You're just like you came from selling churros on 49th Street.
I feel like I just came back from selling churros on West 49. Churro mania, man. Listen, it's cold outside. We got to go out there and get some churros and hot chocolate.
It's
anyway.
62. Wait
a minute. Whoa.
Hey, those people in Buffalo will disagree with you.
It's like 59 right now. It's cold enough to get churros and hot chocolate.
Whoa. It's 33 here. Come on.
Look. People in Buffalo chose to live in Buffalo. We didn't sign up for this.
Yeah, exactly. Don't come out.
So it's not the same thing.
But I love it, man. You clean it. If you can get in there and you take your shovel and clear your seat away, you get to have it for free.
Yeah, sounds like a lot of fun.
I like that.
Where'd you send me the email? My regular email?
Yeah.
Anyway, while Jazz is looking at that,
it's an interesting thing though, Vish. Because
before we get into show and tell, the one thing, my friend, shouts to my friend Glenn, who I've known since middle school, one of my oldest friends who watches the show. And he texts me in the fourth quarter when we kicked the field goal, and I thought of Ralph because he watched the show. It was 42-38. If we got the ball back and scored, I'm like, is this really going to poetically? We're going to get to the ACC championship game by winning 45-42. Is that really going to happen?
That would have been awesome.
Unfortunately, our defense exists. So we never got the ball back. But we were in position for a 45-42 win if we had forced a putt.
That would have been wild.
Unbelievable. I know. It was so close, Ralph. It was just like, yeah, it's really going to happen. It wouldn't that have been like a magical way for the season to end, a 45-42 win. Instead, we're arguing about, road wins. But anyway.
What do you got, Blue? Let's show and tell.
Yeah, let's start it. This is taking you back to 1999, kind of setting the table for the national title.
Wow.
With Danny Morgan on the front of the 99 book, and then inside you got a nice picture of Daniel Franks, who's a
Daniel, aka Bubba.
Bubba.
Yeah, Bubba Franks.
Bubba Franks.
And then Richard Mercier.
Wow.
So you got a nice little show and tell this week. I'm gonna have to come on hoops because I got a 1969 Miami at UCLA program.
You better get him on, Vish.
UCLA, that was part of the
Michael and John Wooden days.
Oh well, it's not just John Wooden. That was just a stack.
Yeah, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar.
Part of their national titles. But I got that. I got when they played David Robinson in Navy.
Wow.
I got that program. So I got one, and then I got Lucas Barnes poster.
Miami, baby.
Yep, and then
what could have been Lucas Barnes.
The almighty first year back with Kevin Presto from Seattle, Washington. So,
Blue, does UNLV make the playoffs or what?
Well, our fingers are crossed that if they can win Friday night, they'll do it. And but if it's a tough assignment having to go up there now. We had our chance there at home, but now we'll see.
What happens if they do beat Boise, though?
They'll win. They'll get in there. They'll be a top 12 team.
Boise won't, right?
No, Boise will be out.
No,
whoever wins that will be the automatic G5.
Yeah,
champion.
They won't put two.
It'll be a second loss for Boise. There was before Tulane lost last week, there was the possibility that the AAC team could also move up high. Again, it's not the P4 champions and a G5.
No,
it's the top 5 conference champions.
Right.
But now that's kind of gone. So it'll be, it's going to be a 1-bid league from whoever wins that game, essentially.
And then maybe next week when Jazz pulls that bracket off, you'll show how it's when you look at it, you'll like it because of the fact that this was done in 1984, I believe.
Oh, wow.
And it is so really on target to the fact that the playoff games were bowl games, which they should be. The playoff games, like team playing at the Gator Bowl, the Sun Bowl, or all these in the in the early rounds, and then finishing off at the Rose Bowl or the Orange Bowl, and it really, when you look at it, it's pretty neat. It's the concept is great. I've sent it to a bunch of people who thought it was done like this year. I said it was done 40 years ago. So think of the people who had the foresight of how college football would be, in 84 to now. You looking at it?
That would have been cool. No.
Okay. All right. Well, that's it. It's been a long show. It's started out with a lot of hate, but now it's all love at the end.
All love, baby. We're making it. We're getting in.
And the undefeated women's basketball team.
Oh, good for them.
We're not going to talk about the other basketball team on campus who snuck in a nice solid loss to Charleston Southern while the football team was playing Syracuse. But
and now they got to play in the
Arkansas tomorrow.
Arkansas in the SEC Challenge. That'll be.
I'll be there
tomorrow.
Don't be
surprised if we're not in tomorrow. The one that really matters is next Tuesday.
No, if we're not in tomorrow,
Vish said.
If we're not in tomorrow, we're done.
Because the teams you're battling with aren't playing in a bowl game, so they're standing on.
Yeah, and I think the final bracket's actually on Sunday. It's not on a Tuesday.
Oh, it is Sunday?
Yeah, it'll be after the conference games on Saturday, though.
And the bowl games will be announced on Sunday, too?
Yeah.
But wouldn't it change if Clemson then beats SMU?
Right, then we're done anyway, because SMU will still be in. And so basically there's one at-large spot left if SMU beats Clemson. If SMU doesn't beat Clemson, it's kind of set.
Yeah.
And we're out, and Alabama's out, and Ole Miss is out. And so what we're looking for tomorrow is Miami to be ahead of Alabama, Ole Miss, and South Carolina. If that happens, they are then in position. They'll be in the bracket tomorrow because Clemson's not in there right now. But then they need SMU to
Clemson wins, they'll be out.
Yeah, Clemson wins, they all of a sudden go to a top 4 seed. Because they're now one of the highest.
And we'll forget about the head-to-head matchup in Louisville, where Miami won at Louisville.
Yeah, none of that matters because they get the auto bid, and then SMU would still be in, and we'd fall out. So, but we need to be in tomorrow, and importantly, we need to be ahead of Ole Miss, Alabama, and South Carolina. If that happens, and the Canes are in position where an SMU win will put them in as they're going to either be the last team in or out, is what it looks like.
Right.
So, right around there.
All right, people. We'll see you guys next Monday.
Yep, big show next Monday.
Oh yeah.
But we'll know by next Monday. We'll know if the Canes are in the playoffs, and also if not,
we're playing the Pop-Tarts Bowl. One or the other.
Yeah.
Yep.
Which sounds derogatory, but it's actually a really good bowl game. So
the
Canes have had I think it's worth noting. 10 wins is nothing to scoff at. And we're never gonna forget the way the season ended. Frankly, I mean, let's be real here. It's not Fiesta Bowl bad because it wasn't the national championship, but it's up there when you're up 21-0. But it's been a great year. They're going to play in a real bowl game, and if they build off of this, then this will become the expectation instead of an aberration that it has been. So, it's important to have that as I was more guilty than anyone else of that. Apologize for the profanity on Saturday. For letting the emotions get a bit too much of me there, but this has been a great season and the team accomplished a lot, and we just need to make sure that that, you know, they continue to build off of this and it doesn't become like 2017 where it was a one-off. And otherwise, we'll be having this much fun and this many discussions and this much arguing every year.
That's it. Thank you, Terrence. Follow us on Twitter at Six Rings Canes and on your podcast, wherever it is you get your podcasts, Apple, Spotify, Six Rings Canes, the 5 Reasons Sports Canes Network. We'll see you next Monday then. Adios.
Adios.
The Six Ring Cane Show. Yeah. The Six Ring Cane Show. Yeah. The Six Rings Cane Show. You know.